Representative Dunbar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Secretary. And I'll follow up on where Representative Schreier was going as far as we're talking about revenues. I think it's something we do need to discuss, that we saw the after effects of overzealous revenue estimates in the past. I'm sure none of us want to go back down that road again. With that being said, as I look at the governor's revenue projections in some of the out years, most specifically CNIT in 1819, a little bit over 3 billion, 3.074 billion. And in 1920, it jumps up to 4.007 billion, which is almost $1 billion increase, a 30-some% increase, doing quick math. I understand that in our questions, we were told that the majority of that increase is coming from implementation of combined reporting, and a number that you provided us was $903 million, which to me makes me a little bit nervous, because I go back to the same conversation I had with Secretary McNulty 2 years ago, and I asked her, what is the revenue projection net of any rate changes for combined reporting? And she told me 507 million. This morning I asked IFO the same question, and they told me 300 million. So I'm curious to where we get to 900 million, if you could. And fortunately, it's a couple years out, so if you can elaborate a little bit how you got to that number, I'd appreciate that.
Sure. You're probably aware that the department's been asked to analyze combined reporting proposals many times over the years, and we spend a lot of time on it.
Going back to the 80s.
Yes. So we have developed a methodology that starts with tax return data from a combined reporting state and matches those returns up with Pennsylvania returns to see how the base would be different than the base that we have today if we were to implement combined reporting. And so that's the source information for a lot of these kinds of proposals.
So can you attribute any type of change in the last 2 years? Because it was Secretary McNulty that gave me the $500 million number.
So let me just add to that that the estimates are very sensitive to what you do with net operating loss carryovers. And some proposals that we have looked at over time have proposed including an uncapped NOL going forward. This proposal keeps in place current law, which is a 40% limit on NOL usage. And I don't know the specific numbers, maybe Amy Gill to my right can speak to that, but those issues are very important in determining what the number is.
Just for my own good, if someone could provide me just an analysis of where we were 2 years ago and where we are today, different. Now, I understand the Nextel case has transpired since then,
Yes.
but at least if I can understand a little bit better, I feel comfortable about that, if you can get that to me. Changing gears a little bit, we talked a little bit about the Tax Cut and Jobs Act and what happened in federal government and what we have and haven't done here in Pennsylvania. And no, I'm not going to bonus depreciation. I'll let somebody else take care of that. But part of the Tax Cut and Jobs Act was the elimination of unreimbursed employee business expenses on the federal level. So there's no longer going to be a deduction for that at the federal level. Has there been any consideration or discussion between you and the administration about doing that at the Pennsylvania level as you talk about new and innovative revenue sources? I call it a tax increase, but has there been any discussion about eliminating that in Pennsylvania?
I'm not aware of any kind of discussion about that. That is one of those issues that would not impact our system directly unless, as you said, that were adopted specifically. But it is something we could get back to you on.
Okay. And lastly, last year, maybe it was early this year, late last year, there was a news release about a glitch in a computer system that held back some refunds, about $15 million of refunds. And I had several calls from practitioners. Most of them were sales tax refunds that were through Board of Appeals. Is that what everything was tied up? Was it appellate type refunds that were held up? What exactly happened there? I also heard that it was Treasury. Can you enlighten us a little bit?
Sure.
So we don't go down the same road?
Yes. So last fall, There was a problem discovered in the communication between our business tax system and Treasury's. Those two systems are in daily communication, literally, because there are so many refunds requested by our department. We issue 1.6 million refunds a year, so a tremendous number. Treasury let us know that they were having to reject some of our refund requests because the name wasn't formatted correctly. A long company name would get truncated, literally. And we needed to make changes in order to simply get the name formatted correctly. That took a little bit of time. There were, as I recall, something like 700 refunds affected. And it was resolved in January, I believe, with by resolving that miscommunication between the two agencies. And that's probably what you're hearing about.
Okay, thank you.